Congressman Tom Malinowski and other Democrats are now introducing a bill to remove U.S. troops from the kingdom. And Congressman Tom Malinowski of New Jersey joins me now. He is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, you've said we have to stop acting like the suckers to Saudi Arabia. How is the U.S. acting like suckers?
Well, it seems to me that the Saudis and their friends in the United Arab Emirates believe that they can do whatever they want to the United States, whether it's spiking oil prices or murdering a Washington Post journalist, and that we will always take it upon ourselves to save our relationship with them from the consequences of their misbehavior. It's the definition of an unhealthy relationship, whether you're talking about two individuals or two countries. And I think it's time for us to ask just a basic practical question. Why do we have, for example, troops in Saudi Arabia, if not to protect their oil fields, to protect a country that is supposed to be playing a constructive role in maintaining the stability of these global energy markets? And if they're not willing to do that, well, I would say we need those troops and that equipment elsewhere.
You think the U.S., this administration, has given Saudi Arabia and the UAE the impression they can get away with anything?
I think every administration going back decades has given them that impression. Whenever they do something outrageous, we tend to wring our hands and say, well, that's bad, but there's still some important benefits we get from these relationships, and so we don't want to jeopardize them. I think we have to change that dynamic so that it's the Saudis who have that conversation before they make a decision to hurt us. I mean, we, after all, provide a guarantee of their security. There's no way that they can't turn to China, they can't turn to Russia anytime soon to protect themselves. We do so much more for them than they do for us. And yet there's this dynamic in which, we act as if the relationship, the partnership we have with them is too big to fail. And that's not healthy for us, and I think that dynamic has to change.
And you are calling for the removal of U.S. troops from the kingdom. Have you talked to the White House about this?
I've had many conversations with the White House and the State Department going back over a year. I mean, I think when the war in Ukraine began, I felt that was the time to send a message to these countries that they had an important responsibility in helping us address the most important problem in the world, Russia's invasion in Ukraine. And their responsibility was to help make up for the oil that was going to be lost from international markets when we sanctioned Russia. And instead, they've decided to do the opposite. They've made a conscious decision to help Russia by spiking oil prices so that Putin will make more revenue, by hurting American and European consumers, which is really the only way Putin can hope to win this war right now, by imposing economic pain on Americans and Europeans so that we might vote for different leaders in future elections. So I do see it as a deliberately hostile act, and why would we have troops defending a country that behaves this way towards us? So I want to put it on the table, and I want to give Biden the ammunition that I think he needs to recalibrate these relationships so they're more in our interest.
What do you think would happen to the security situation in the Middle East if U.S. troops were to leave Saudi Arabia? How do you think the Saudis would react?
I think it would be very bad for the security situation of Saudi Arabia. And that's their problem. I mean, we would still have troops in the Middle East. We have all kinds of places where we have troops in the Middle East that take care of things that are important to us. The troops in Saudi Arabia in particular are not so useful to the United States. They're there to symbolize our guarantee of Saudi Arabia's security. And yeah, it would expose them. But again, that's what they should be thinking about the next time they decide to hurt the United States of America and our allies.
In retrospect, do you think it was a mistake for President Biden to go to Saudi Arabia and meet with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman?
So I'm not saying anything I haven't been saying for many months. I thought the trip, I understood his purpose in going. I thought it was ill-advised. I remember thinking at the time that I hope I'm wrong, and that the trip would produce the results that we need. In my worst nightmares, I didn't think that they would go this far to undermine our efforts in Ukraine. So I do think this is a time, without recriminations, without rehashing what happened in the past, for all of us to come together and to rebalance this very unhealthy relationship with Saudi Arabia and the UAE, frankly, which is part of this as well, so that it serves our interests better.
Congressman Tom Malinowski, thank you so much for sharing your perspective this morning.